Good day, everyone. Welcome you all to this fifth webinar of the series of webinars on generative AI in higher education and teacher education, organized by the Center for Educational Technology and Media in collaboration with the Faculty of Education of the Open University of Sri Lanka. So today we have another eminent expert from the USA, Professor Curtis J. Bonk, to conduct the webinar, today's webinar on enhancing teaching and learning with generative AI. So let me, before commencing the session, let me do a brief introduction about Professor Curtis J. Bonk. Curtis J. Bonk is a professor in the School of Education at Indiana University, IU, teaching psychology and technology courses, and adjunct in the IU Luddy School of Informatics, Computing, and Engineering. He's a former software entrepreneur, certified public accountant, corporate controller, and educational psychologist, who presently is an educational technologist, award-winning writer, highly published researcher, statewide and national awardee in innovative teaching with technology, and an internationally acclaimed presenter. His scholarly interests are self-directed online learning, the use of generative AI for language learning, open education, massive open online courses or MOOCs, e-learning, blended learning, distance learning, informal learning, online motivation and collaboration, emerging learning technologies, and AI augmented writing and learning. Kurt is the author of over 435 publications, including 20 books and 175 peer-reviewed journal articles. And he has given close to 2,000 talks around the world. Even now, just now, he is joining us after giving a keynote to Korea. So in 2020, Kurt was awarded the IU President's Award for Excellence in Teaching and Learning Technology. And in 2021, he received the David H. Jonassen Excellence in Research Award. Notably, the American Educational Research Association named him for a 2022 ARA Fellow for his exceptional contributions to an excellence in education research. He became a fellow of the Online Learning Consortium in 2023 and a fellow of AECT 2024. Kurt co-hosts the weekly award-winning podcast show Silver Lining for Learning, which is very popular among all of us. Okay, so we are extremely honored and privileged to have you here today with us, Kurt. So I'm sure it's going to be a very interesting webinar today. Earlier also, Kurt has given us webinars and some we have engaged in panel discussions as well. So for some of you, I'm sure he's not a stranger. He's a very popular expert in this field. So without further ado, I hand over to you, Professor Curtis J. Bonk, to start the webinar. And I also wish to inform the participants that we are recording this webinar and it will be available later on in our YouTube channel. And also, please put any questions if you have, any comments in the chat box, and your questions will be taken by Kurt at the end of the session. All right then, thank you everybody, and over to you, Kurt.
Thank you very much, Veronica. Good to join you again. Could anyone put a 1 in the chat window? Just type a 1 if you've used generative AI. Just put a 1 in there if you've used generative AI. I'm just curious if anyone has. Okay. Only 2 people so far. Thank you, Jayashri. Okay. A 1 in the chat if you've used generative AI. Anytime for your teaching. Okay. We've got people, okay, lots of people going in now. All right, I want you to put a 2 in the chat window if you've used generative AI for your teaching or research or anything like that in the past week. You've used generative AI in the past week, put a 2 in there. Okay. Lots of 2s. Okay. Okay, I want you to put a 3 in there if you've used generative AI today or yesterday in the past 48 hours. Put a 3 in. Okay. I want you to put a 4 in there if in the past 48 hours you've used it more than once. Generative AI. Put a 4 in if you've used it more than once. Okay, a couple of you. All right. All right. And now lastly, I'd like you to put a 5 if you've used it many times in the last 2 days. If you've used it more than 4 or 5 times in the past 2 days, put a 4 or put a 5 in there. Thanks, Alyssa. Good to have you here. Vashuda. Jimani. Good to have you here. All right. So I am preaching to the choir, people who are already using it, and now I'm going to tell you about it. Now I've got 4, maybe actually 5 different talks on generative AI pedagogy, the 5th one being for language learning, but the first 4 all build to one another. And in fact, the 4th one is a synthesis of the prior 3. I've given these to the Commonwealth of Learning. No, I've given to Contact North in Ontario. Well, let me just go through here a little bit with you. I'll go through some ideas, ways to utilize generative AI in teaching. And I'm going to put the slide deck on. I've got more specifics I can show, but my slides are posted, as I said already. So this is enhancing teaching and learning with generative AI, because every day we hear about AI, 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 AI. And so we have to fill that need. Everyone wants to hear about AI. There are websites full of new tools that you could use and download to teach with AI. This is just a listing from Padlet that someone posted. This summer, I think there's a lot of people starting to create these lists upon lists. And so I just brought these with me today. In fact, if you look at these are handouts on just different tools for accessibility, feedback, for video creation, study skills, note-taking, brainstorming, personalized learning, science research, creating music, visual creations, creating podcasts, preparing presentations, writing stories, lesson planning. I mean, all sorts of things are happening today. We're seeing a lot of attention being placed in terms of generative AI tools and technology. Going back to the slides I had up here earlier. Okay, here we go. There's a lot of jobs for AI today. We see AI engineer, AI consultant, AI researcher. The top 12, the 12th one is AI researcher. There are jobs to have that have to require experience with AI as an engineer, as a consultant, as a researcher. In fact, Duolingo president said, we're going to try and hire AI before human beings. The founder of Google, former CEO of Google, predicts that AI is going to replace most programmers in the next year or 2. That's a bold statement. Duolingo is going to have an AI first strategy that's going to eliminate a lot of programmers and programmers workers. And jobs at colleges are starting to post experience with AI, backgrounds in AI, and so forth. Arizona State, now, go ahead. So Arizona State's actually having courses in generative AI. Georgia Tech has a certificate in generative AI. Harvard has a new doctorate in the medical school related to AI in the medical profession. And there are new books. In fact, the one on the left here is done by my friend Stephanie Pankey from North Carolina. It is free, AI in education. On the right is a new portal with magazines on AI in education called Educate AI. My friend Helen Crumpton from Old Dominion has created frameworks to think about AI in education, what benefits it offers, including writing support, including editing support, including feedback, conversational partners, like I was demonstrating before we started this session. Sharonika and I were playing around a bit, including having questions, study guides, including having, collaborations, facilitating discussion with generative AI. Now, professors are using GenAI for brainstorming ideas, summarizing content, writing emails, creating meeting notes, creating PowerPoint slides, and so forth. And yet, most professors, most instructors, most lecturers in university setting are not adequately trained to use AI. Most of them are saying, we have not been trained. 80%. That's a huge number, Sharonika. 80% are saying we're not being properly trained. So this is why I'm coming here tonight, maybe. I don't know. One of the websites I like to go to by Daniel Stanford has a lot of info about generative AI pedagogy. And he has summarized, excuse me, we got allergy season happening here in Indiana right now. It's springtime. Anyways, he's summarized the ways in which, categories in which people are teaching with AI, including doing online debates and role play, including doing creative brainstorming, revision of texts, critiques, and that kind of thing. Whether it's developing quizzes on the fly, annotating texts, offering a thesaurus or dictionaries or spelling of words to correct language mistakes. There are a lot of affordances that AI provides. And people out of Charles Darwin University in Northern Australia, maybe not too far as the crow flies from Sri Lanka, maybe an 8-hour flight, maybe or 5 or 6, I don't know. But they said they've offered 25 applications for teaching with AI. Among them, marking student essays, which I haven't done. Among them, developing rubrics, which I have done, creating rubrics with AI. Among their ideas include creating examples or ideas that conceptually can display a term more easily than other ways, including creating tutorials, including sparking debates, including creating discussion prompts, including creating test reflection questions, multiple choice questions. There's lots of ways to use generative AI. And this book is called Text Gen Ed, Teaching with Text Generation Technologies, printed in Colorado, I believe, at the Western Athletic Association Conference, WAC Clearinghouse. This book is free, and it came out in 2023. However, it's a little technical, so they'll have examples for computer science. They'll have examples for family studies. They'll have examples for sociology. They'll have examples for philosophy. But they're dense. They're not as easily transferred from one context to another. But they're good. They have English literature examples. So I'm sharing this with you because the link is there. If you download my slides, you can get a free book. Okay. You get another free book is called 101 Creative Ideas to Use AI in Education, a crowdsourced collection. Now, this second book, I think, comes from the UK because most of the authors are from the UK, but they're from many countries. And they have examples like branching scenarios for the medical profession. So they show how you can use generative AI to create a case, to create a scenario, and have a branching as you make decisions you fall down to different branches of the decision tree. These are hard for someone to create. I have a colleague in anatomy. He says it takes 7 hours to develop one case. With generative AI, you can create these in 2 minutes and utilize them. So this is example number 12 in the 101 creative uses book. This is example 33 in that book. So I'm just pulling out some of the examples in the book, including using ChatGPT as a form of assessment. The first example comes from someone at the Open RN project in the UK. The second one comes from someone at the Open University in the UK. You can have peer assessment, self-assessment, instructor assessment, expert assessment. Here we got AI assessment. So it's another window into what could be revised. Also, you can use ChatGPT as a debate partner to get ready for a debate coming face-to-face or an online one. So to get the student to understand what they know and don't know. Again, this one's from the same person in the UK at the Open U. This example is also from the UK, from Anglia Ruskin University, where they use DALL-E to try and create visuals of key concepts, create images, comparison and contrast charts, all sorts of things to help students understand concepts better and improve their reflection on the problems or cases or situations that they're wrestling with, the terminology. So representing concepts visually with a quick sketch of a concept or a visualization of it. Others in Surrey, the University of Surrey in the UK, are using ChatGPT and other AI tools to generate book summaries, to draft a summary of the textbook and compare it to student summaries of that book. And so students in her class compare their chapter summaries to those of ChatGPT and maybe improve them. So that's two different books that are free. This book is my book, and it is free as well, adding some tech variety. It's free in Chinese and in English. Elaine Coe from New Zealand, now at Massey University in New Zealand, and I did the first book, and now we've got a second one. These are books on motivation online using our tech variety model. The tech variety model has 10 principles of motivation, from tone, encouragement, curiosity, variety, autonomy, and so forth. Relevance, interactivity. Each one of them has 10 examples in the book. So we have 10 times 10 or 100 free examples of how to use that book. The second book, Motivating and Supporting Learners Online, was commissioned by Sanjaya Mishra, who Sharonika knows very well. Sanjaya is with the Commonwealth of Learning in Vancouver, and he asked us to create a shorter version. So we got a newer and a shorter version of this book in 2022 that also has a free class with it. So there's a free course helping you learn how to motivate students in an online environment. I have a second book called Empowering Online Learning that's not free, but has my model called Read, Reflect, Display, and Do, or R2D. 2 books with 100 activities in them. I'm walking you through each one of those books here, or part of them, given the time. So in terms of the tech variety book, you might foster a safe climate, or it might foster a sense of belongingness by doing different things, having ice-breaking kinds of questions in and among students, having them post introductions of each other, and just generally getting to know other people better. I went from having 30% drops online to nearly 0 by having social icebreakers in. Now, in my classes every week, I have guests come in and we use their articles and we ask them questions from their articles as a starter. Now, I use Chat PDF and Chat GPT I put their article in Chat PDF and I said, could you come up with some questions we should ask the guest? And it does generate a list of questions. It makes it simple for me. So you can do, tone and climate kinds of introductory things. Then we can encouragement and feedback, exam preparation, for instance, having ChatGPT create a study guide or a study schedule or a set of self-test exams questions or a set of help or tips or guidelines. Or ChatGPT can create an explanation, an elaboration of key concepts. It might summarize key principles or points in an article. All that can help a student feel more comfortable when they come take the actual exam later on in the semester. So review materials, schedules, summarizing, and so forth. Number 3 is curiosity. Curiosity, just posting maybe something in the news articles and some questions around some articles and having students discuss, debate, reflect, critique different articles in the news. Number 4 is variety, fun, fantasy, and novelty. Here we have English as a second language learners, ESL learners, who might be learning new words through images and pictures that are added to a caption gradually or incrementally using Dolly or some other device or tool, image creation. Number 5 is autonomy and choice. Here I have the students pick any book they want to critique, any book they want to do a book review on, and write a critique and then compare it to ChatGPT, also writes a critique or a book review or an article review, and they compare their article review or book review to ChatGPT, and they can see that ChatGPT's review is often not any better. In fact, it's usually worse than the student review. Number 6 is making things relevant for the learners. Like my friend Mahabali at the American University of Cairo, I had a chance to visit her a year and a half ago in Egypt, and she showed me how she's using generative AI with her students at each point along the way when they're writing, whether it's pre-writing activities or post-writing activities. She's incorporating ChatGPT in and helping them draft their papers, make revisions, and then add their own content, refine their ideas, not using it selectively, not for the whole paper, but using it incrementally and selectively along the way. How to appropriately use AI tools in the process instead of leaving it to students' decisions, trying to provide scaffolds or examples or guidelines and so forth. Number 7 is interactive and collaborative. This gentleman has his students work in teams to summarize a couple chapters from a book, typically, and then he has ChatGPT summarize the same chapters, and he has the students compare and contrast what ChatGPT has come up with to their own chapter summaries, and it's eye-opening because students find out that their summary is not worse than ChatGPT. In fact, ChatGPT is usually much worse than the students because the students is, as he says, soulless. There's no emotion. There's no humanity. There's no social context. There's no, sense of why something is interesting or why they should read it, because ChatGPT summary just tends to be a list of things, what appears in a book and so forth. So that's eye-opening for students when they compare their summaries to ChatGPT summaries. Also, when you have ChatGPT write cover letters or applications or resumes, students are very disappointed in what's produced. It tends to be a laundry list of ideas. It's not that interesting, actually. Daniel Stanford says in terms of interactivity, he gives his students AI-generated text, and he has them revise it. And if they revise at least 50% of a sentence, they put that in yellow. If they, without making major revisions to it, if they use track changes when revising, they can use different colors to show what the revision is. They try and identify problematic statements or misconceptions or hallucinations in the ChatGPT generated text. My friend Helen Crompton at Old Dominion, as I said earlier, has ChatGPT be a debate partner who looks for weaknesses in students' arguments, or a recruiter who interviews them for a job, or a supervisor or boss who gives them feedback in a specific way on their performances. There's all sorts of ways to incorporate generative AI technology. He also has generative AI create movie scripts where people play on specific professions, like a nurse and a doctor, a pilot and a flight attendant. And then he has them look for gender identity and other bias, gender or racial bias, such as found in these images of a nurse and doctor, where you see the nurse is often portrayed as a woman, and a doctor as a man, and a flight attendant as a man, and a flight pilot as a man, and a flight attendant as a woman, often, so as to get students discussing why that would be. Number 9, tension or challenge. My friend here tries to use, her name is Trung Phung. My friend at Fresno State tries to use a tool called Smile. Oh, Smile. Smile is built by Paul Kim when he was at Stanford. Mobile inquiry learning environment. Smile is free. Smile got students to ask questions of each other in competitions. And Paul has built a new tool called Ask Smile that's free, all is free, to rate the levels of questions that students ask on a scale of 1 to 5, according to Bloom's taxonomy. They don't use number 6, they combine levels 5 and 6. So as to create 5 different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. So from knowledge to application, comprehension, to evaluation, so forth. And so my friend Trung Phung uses this with teacher trainees. When she has them in class, she has them ask 50 questions. And she tries to get them to move up Bloom's taxonomy to ask higher and higher levels of questions. So Ask Smile is a tool that ranks the question. Smile Ask is a new tool that gives nudges to ask higher levels of questions. I've published an article recently on this with Paul Kim, and I've also submitted an article with Trung Phung on this tool. If you want to read our article, we showed that people increasingly ask higher and higher levels of questions with assistance and advice from Smile. So number 9 is tension or challenge or controversy. Number 10 is yielding products, whether that product is a podcast show or a video or some other performance, or a simple thing like creating a resume or a cover letter and using ChatGPT to help you in that regard. It's at my Empowering Online Learning book, is my Star Wars model of read, reflect, display, and do, also called R2D2. With R2D2, we start with number 1, which is reading. So number 1, we put in a paper that I wrote called On the Trail of Self-Directed Learners. And this paper came out last year with a journal in Shanghai, China, called ECNU, East China Normal University Review of Education. It's based on a decade of my researches on self-directed learning. Now, I forgot what I wrote, so I put it into Chat PDF, and it listed concepts in my own article. It listed questions in my own article. So I got to think about what I covered in that article and how I could use it in my class. Okay, so reading, summarizing articles, creating themes and so forth, or instead of reading, listening to a podcast show and getting information there. This one is on how to use AI in creative writing. Number 3 is we tried before the session started. I will open this up later, and there's a chat bot called Miles and another one called Maya, and we'll have a conversation with these chat bots from Sri Lanka all the way here to Indiana in US. So it'll be kind of fun. The conversational speech partners are really not exploding, but are coming on the scene today. Number two is to reflect. Reflecting on technical reports, reflecting on books, reflecting on speeches. Here we're reflecting on policy documents and having students summarize them in simple terms and compare that to a GenAI tool, which takes the same policy document, put into plain language that the common person on the street could understand, and has undergraduate students translate this documents into plain language and compare it to what ChatGPT produced and have a discussion wrapped around it. Another one for reflection is created by this woman at George Mason University in Washington, D.C. In this assignment, she asked students to generate a pool of complex essays using a GenAI tool. The students then edit these essays using principles that she taught them, and the students are asked to share a final output along with visuals that demonstrate the comparison between the current version and the previous versions. So it's just a way to get students to interact on text and improve it, refine it, explain it, elaborate on it, and so forth. So using AI as an editing tool, using AI as kind of a mind mapping tool, a macro context of it to look at the structures of something. One of the tools out there that's free is called Napkin AI. The visualization at the bottom and on the right comes from Napkin. The one on the left comes from a human being. It's more sophisticated from a human being than Napkin, but Napkin is free. It can get you starting to think. So read, reflect, display, the third component, display what we're doing. So we're doing that with Napkin as a tool. We also use Sora. Sora is a tool that's soon to come out from OpenAI, where I can type, give me a close-up of two pirate ships battling in a cup of coffee, and it will generate that. Or a woman walking in downtown Tokyo wearing a red dress and boots and has a black purse and sunglasses and red lipstick. And it'll draw this, immediately create this image. Now imagine, this is today. Imagine 5 years from now, or even just 2 years from now, what is possible. To see a woolly mammoth go across a meadow with snow-capped mountains in the background. People at a company called Colossus are trying to recreate mammoths. We'll see if they're successful or not. Or looking at a little furry monster kneeling beside a melting candle. The mood of the painting is one of wonder and curiosity. The monster gazes at the flame with wide eyes and an open mouth. Its pose and expression convey a sense of innocence and playfulness. So look at these images. I mean, it's just, look at this. I mean, just totally amazing what is possible today and what will be possible tomorrow. We can have Bing or Dolly or some create images and then have students who are taking a language class write a paper around the images created to get them to think, right? So a lot of language education instructors are utilizing generative AI for different ways because it can help support language learning. In fact, my research is on exactly that. My team has been interviewing YouTubers who teach languages online, and we've published 4 papers on it. Write to me if you'd like to read them. We've also done research on how students in university are utilizing generative AI to write. We have also done studies on ethics that's in review right now. So we've got different studies. We've also done studies on Duolingo, learning languages. Now, DALL-E can create culturally specific images. It could create images based on proverbs of a country or a culture. And students could do some activities around those images created. Doing something. So one thing I found very interesting is Notebook LM. My colleague, Mark Brown, is currently fighting leukemia, and he has created a 350,000 word journal. And in that 350,000 word journal, he put that into Notebook LM to create a podcast show discussing, analyzing, interpreting all his content of his ongoing medical struggles that he's been wrestling with, and so forth. So it's really interesting to use a tool like Notebook LM, which is free. It basically creates a podcast show between a male and a woman and simplifies a video. So I've done it with a talk like this talk I'm doing for you. I put my video in that I had done for Contact North, and I created a podcast show of that video presentation. And so people don't have to watch the whole 1 hour video. They can listen to a 17-minute condensed podcast show interaction on my notes. They put my PowerPoint slides in, or the audio or the video. You also can use tools like Udio and Suno to create a song about anything. So I created a couple songs here. I just gave a talk to medical educators in Korea a couple hours ago, so I had Suno create a song about that, and if I have time at the end, I'll play the song briefly. The last framework we need to think about, so I've got the tech variety, I've got the R2D2. The third one, it doesn't have a name per se, but just thinking about how to foster critical thinking for convergent thinking, creative thinking for divergent thinking, motivation over the top of that, as well as teamwork and collaboration. Thinking about how we can do that in our discussion forums, in our course activities, to foster this sense of higher order thinking skills, analysis skills, evaluation, and so forth and so on. So one of the things I have in my syllabi has a brave person option. I call it brave people option. Students can do a software technology review. They can do a book review. They can do article reviews, or they can have AI do it and then them write a reflection on it. So I have, the students doing reflections on their AI critiques or the AI book reviews. Another thing I do is I have 2 discussion forums. I have one discussion forum just with humans, student to student. I have a second discussion forum where AI is producing the content to be discussed in the students. So it's student and AI discussions, which is interesting. They have a choice. They can go to the AI augmented discussion or the human to human discussion. As I said, I also have students do software technology reviews, or AI do them and compare them. Or a third activity here is having AI help students who are in computer programming classes debug their software code and interpret it and create some feedback for them on their code so as to be able to improve it, or have the students improve the code of the technology, right? It's not flawless, as we know. So have the general AI or GenAI tool create a code snippet, and the students then look at it and try and improve it. Or have the GenAI tool build a summary of a passage or of an article or a short paper or a technical report, and have the students then look at that and find mistakes that are in it and try to improve that. And then bring it to class for a reflection with other students and discuss what they found in their edits, what they made through the document. Or have generative AI assist them in creating outlines for a report or a starter outline for a paper that they're about to write, to help them outline their paper so that they can more effectively and expeditiously write it later on. Or have the generative AI tool act as a peer editor, as I mentioned earlier, for one's writing and giving them help and assistance on that writing, and then having them talk about what GenAI provided to them for a whole class discussion. Or have a comparison and contrast activity where GenAI might generate content on a particular topic that's relevant to the course, like Greek civilization versus Roman civilization, and then have students read some books, articles, and find mistakes in what GenAI produced and have a class discussion where they critically analyze what GenAI got correct, incorrect, or missed completely. Well, that's a complicated assignment, but a good one. It will get students really digging in. Or having, again, like the cases earlier, having, practice cases, authentic cases for students to wrestle with, whether you're teaching counseling, psychology, or you're teaching business ethics, or you're teaching some other class, anatomy or physiology or something, having it create these authentic practice questions in there. And that's number 58 in the 101 book. One idea that I find kind of interesting is this professor at Leeds University, or University of Leeds, I should say, in northern UK, been there once. She has GenAI create a poem of her feedback to students. So, instead of giving the normal feedback, I type all this stuff up. I send it back in a scanned document. She has to create a poem for the students. So ChatGPT, a marvel of AI design with knowledge vast and endlessly refined. It can converse at any topic you choose, and its responses are sure to amuse. This is not exactly the poem I would come up with, but interesting. Another faculty member, I'm trying to see whether maybe from Italy, uses DALL-E and ChatGPT to give students feedback as a visual image. Here, an eagle or some other bird, a hawk or something flying above, indicating you did really good in your papers, the best of the best. Whereas someone else might get a dragon with flames coming out. I'm not so sure I would give that kind of feedback to students. That might dishearten my students to see the dragon always coming back and flames coming out of their paper, out of their mouth to get their papers. Another professor who is at Cal State University has an image creation in DALL-E or other image creation tools. The students use image creation generation tools. So instead of just turning in writing, they're turning in writing plus an image that best represents that writing. That is kind of interesting. Kind of like that idea. Another professor. And some people do use ChatGPT for role play, interactive role play, and having chats with people in the past, whether it's history, Napoleon Bonaparte, or, Mother Teresa, or something else, or it's something related to science or technology. But it creates more of an interactive environment for the students. Some professors find they're getting behind in their course lectures. And they find that ChatGPT and generative AI tools can help support them to start the class off. So if you're studying a different concepts in psychology that might be controversial, you might ask ChatGPT, what are some of the controversial issues that relate to Sigmund Freud's work or Carl Jung's work? What are some misconceptions? And those misconceptions, those common the controversies in the field could be used to start the lectures off. So it might provide you a list of prompts to start your class session off with. This person has his first year critical writing students evaluate the factuality of 3 different anonymized texts. One of those anonymized texts is created by AI. The other 2 were created by humans. And it has them figure out, what are key points, what are some problems, and maybe improve them and so forth to develop their critical reading skills. Other people use DALL-E and other AI generation, visual generation tools to create cartoons, such as this cartoon strip about understanding human density. Or they might use instead of cartoons, they might instead of cartoons, they might create comic books. Now, my friend Araz Bazkurt, who you may know from Turkey, Anadolu University, he's pretty well known. He has his students create comic book frames of explaining content within the articles. Others might use think, pair, share activities where they might reflect on a topic, share with their partner, and then check out ChatGPT to see if ChatGPT agrees with them on the reflection before sharing with the class their answer on a question the instructor might pose. Or ChatGPT might help create icebreakers or interview questions of their peers or course guidelines or objectives. There's all sorts of ways to use ChatGPT. ChatGPT can also be used to help translate large blocks of text into different languages that students are using, so they can readily see how different words might appear in Italian, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, or whatever, which is useful for learning new languages. But just simple ice-breaking activities, as I mentioned earlier. One of my students this semester had not had done a blog weekly, but also had ChatGPT do a blog and compared her blog to ChatGPT, which was kind of interesting. So she had a diary or a journal of every week's readings, and ChatGPT also reflected. That's kind of a good way for students to meta-reflect on the course content. Also asking teams of students to make summaries of readings before they come to class, and then they meet in class or in Zoom or some other way, and they come up with the best summary across the 3 or 4 students or how many students you have on a team. And they attempt to refine those summaries and make them better. But each one of them may have relied on AI to do their summary. So they've used different AI tools supporting them in their summary. And then they can compare the results. That's kind of an interesting one. Or they might create an article abstract or an article guidelines or key points. And they might utilize AI at some point in the process, as I said earlier. What I do in my classes, I have students write midterm papers. I call them research digs. They have to research 15 to 20 articles and summarize them. And after they've done that, they use AI to do a separate summary and compare them. This woman tries to take medical research and articles and technical reports and create a summary of these very dense medical journal articles and rewrite it for a magazine or for a lay audience using different AI tools. Or AI might create the discussion prompts for a class. Lastly, Harvard has a website called the Pedagogy Project. In the Pedagogy Project, they have different contents that they're trying to teach, and they use AI to help teach that content. On the left, or in the middle there, they are taking a document and asking AI to include some mistakes on purpose that the students have to find and identify and fix. I'll skip over this historical creation idea. So this is the end of this talk. As I've said before, it's a long journey to get to this point. There's a lot that will happen with GenAI in the future, but I cannot do this alone. I can't make all these changes alone. I'm going to need your help to get to the next level where we need to be. So on the count of 3, I will ask everyone to help me and say, I cannot do this alone. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. I cannot do this alone. 1. Everyone's going to help me now. 2, 3. I cannot do this alone.
I cannot do this alone.
1, 2, 3. I cannot do this.
I cannot do this alone.
Okay, thank you very much. My notes are at Training Share. My papers are at Publication Share. I've got a lot up there to get. 3 books that are free. The third one is on the research reviews. I think I'll stop at this point and stop my sharing and see if I have any questions from all of you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kurt, for that very interesting presentation. You gave a lot of examples of creatively using generative AI in teaching learning processes, and also linking with your tech variety model and the R2D2 model. So I'm sure the audience has many questions, even though we only have one question in the chat box. But I have enabled audio and video. If anybody would like to switch on their video and ask any question, you're fine. I mean, you can go ahead. The question just now.
Yeah. So one question in there, if part of a paper, part of a research paper is generated by generative AI, the norm is to acknowledge that. Yes. So where you're utilizing it, you should put that in the acknowledgments. That will increasingly become more obvious over time. This is such a new technology and a new type of acknowledgement for us to make everything, just like when we change APA from 6 to 7, it takes a couple of years for it to sink in and figure out all the ins and outs. But yes, this will be the norm, and we'll be doing that and acknowledging the AI components. And there'll be some journals that will definitely not accept any part of a paper even being looked at for now. Some will avoid that issue, but over time, there'll be some greater understanding about what is allowable, what's not allowable, what's going to be included, and what's a concern.
Yeah. So until we get some questions, like now, Kurt, I'm just I was wondering now. It's overwhelming to see all these possibilities, and new tools are being developed every day. You showed us, the video generations and all those things. I mean, so what about this ethical aspect also, and the misuse of? I mean, how to make sure that people are using this in a responsible manner and ethical manner. As teachers, what message can you give us?
Yeah. So number one, there's a lot of things. One is you explain it, what's expected. Two is you model it. Three is you make a website and you put it up and what's there. Four is you tell what the consequences are if you don't, abide by it, right? Or you tell what the consequences have been in the past. There are a lot of ways to reduce these problems that come up. We'll never eliminate, we never have, but there are ways to address it and reduce it. And there are dozens of ways. I've got an article right now on, online proctoring of examinations and so forth, and have one published. So, I guess sharing what you're doing, sharing the instructor perceptions of this, having trainings on it, just having trainings on it, or having guidelines, having a guidebook of what's expected, walking people through it, showing people what to do. At IU, at Indiana here, a faculty who's now retired created a website showing what issues of copyright and plagiarism and all that. And there's all a test that millions of people have used this website that they take to get certified. And so there could be a training program.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. The purpose of this series of webinars is also to raise awareness, which is linked with the capacity development project we are having at the Faculty of Education, actually. And also we are, the university is planning to formulate AI policy for the university and guidelines, specific guidelines. We are working on those things. So these webinars are also, and the resources you shared are very useful. I think there's another question in the chat.
There's a question here. So, Professor, if you could give educators just one piece of advice about using ChatGPT in education that might be a surprise, benefit, or unexpected downfall, what would it be? One piece of advice for a downfall. People worry about the over-reliance, that you're giving away your intellectual capital and intellectual humanity, offloading it to a machine. I haven't experienced that yet, I don't think. One piece of advice or guidance. I mean, I tell everyone to try one thing out a semester. Just try one thing. Don't do too many things, because you'll overwhelm yourself. I've given you lots of ideas, but don't use all those. Do one, maybe two. and maybe try low risk, low cost, low time first, which is safe. Go in a safe harbor. Go in something that is I hate this expression win-win, but go into something where it has a potential to work and impact a lot of people without causing you a lot of time, patience. So there are certain things that I do in my classes, like integrating shared online video to explain concepts. There's so many ways in which I can utilize shared online video, and many work, and get students to dual code content, to see things visually and verbally and learn it better. It makes a lot of sense. Richard Mayer's research on multimedia education explain that. So the use of video or animations or simulations makes a lot of sense. Now, in the generative AI world, what would be the win-win kinds of things that we would be using GenAI for? And I think the simplest thing, as I said earlier, I think icebreaking activities. Why not use GenAI to create simple icebreakers and create community and create some belongingness in one's classroom? Because you're bringing everyone closer together. So I would say, for me, it's those little short bursts of time savers that when I'm running low on time, I'm getting pulled in many directions. I got class starting in 5 minutes. I got to run down to my class. I can ask GenAI, hey, what might be a good question to ask all my students when I get into class today? And it gives me something. I go, wow, so I would say something like that. Those little de-stressors, they take the stress off the instructor and off the student. Some simple things that one can do to basically have AI be your assistant, not your slave. They're your assistant for a day. It's something you can't ask. I have a TA. I have volunteer teaching assistant, but it's 5 minutes. They're already in class. I'm late. I might be late. I can quickly hit my computer and say, oh, okay, I can run with it. So I would say something like that. So the unexpected little things in life that just fit at the right moment, the right time. And I'll say, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we're going to try this today. I got this idea from ChatGPT. I'm going to try it. We'll see, or I might tell them after. I might start class, do it, try that little activity, and then meta reflect at the end, doing debriefing.
Okay. So
On it and say, by the way, hey, I gave that guy. I may have thought this is a really great idea, but it was not mine. So yeah. What do you think?
Yes, there's a lot of food for thought. Okay, so there's another interesting question there.
Yeah. If GenAI emerged, and Michelangelo, and I've just read Da Vinci's a book on Da Vinci, and it is incredible. I mean, the biography of Da Vinci, I highly recommend. Would you think that there would be a chance of emerging of great artists and great paintings like the Mona Lisa? Sometimes there could have been hidden due to AI. What's your opinion? Well, that's a really serious issue in society today, is when we offload so much to technology. We've given up a piece of what humanity is and humanness is, and what it means to live and on this planet, make a contribution on this planet. We have to find that balance between offloading things to the tool, like creating brainstorming questions or ice-breaking questions, which is a simple thing to do and is an enhancement to my class. It will take it another step further. So using these tools as augmentative aids, a mouse is an augmentative tool. It helps us. A concept mapping tool, a mind mapping tool is an augmentative aid. It can help us write papers at higher levels because we have that structure in front of us. But the problem with these augmentative aids is that they constrain us. The research in psychology for a long time has shown when you give students the questions ahead of time, it constrains their creativity. It can help enhance their quality on a quality rating, but will it enhance their creativity, and spontaneity? So human beings are trained to be focused, to give these prompts or give the scaffold and focus them in. But when we focus people in, we lose some of that. we lose some of that spontaneous idea generation. My master's and my PhD were about convergent divergent thought. So I'm very interested in this question because it is something I have thought about. And, you know, some people think that you have to have produced in order to be creative. You have to create, you have to do something, you have to get it in action in society. I disagree. I think any creative idea in one's head, because it could eventually come out 20 years from now, it's still creative. It might not, everyone might not recognize it or realize it, but it's still creative. And we have to focus on how each human being can be creative in their own minds as well as with other people. Too much of society is focused on what this idea will do with and among other people. I think a human is a divergent. We have to be a divergent, convergent process. We have to diverge and then come to some evaluation, then re-diverge. It's a back and forth notion, right? And if we rely on AI for everything that we're doing and every step that we're doing, we lose that sense of divergency. We only have that convergency.
So obviously, the AI can't replace the teachers, of course. That's what you're saying, simply. And also,
that's okay. Augmentative tool. It's not a replacement. So some of the AI researchers in 1950s at the Dartmouth conference, some proposed that AI is the term to replace teachers. Others said no. One path was to augment and help and provide working memory support and whatever. That's one path. The other path was replacement. And the path that so far won is augmentative tool. And I agree. And that's the way we should go, not replacement. Okay.
Also, I mean, writing prompts, I mean, as you mentioned, even writing the exact prompt is a creative work. I mean, we have to think creatively in order to get what we want, right? To write the prompt in a creative manner.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, prompt engineering.
Yeah.
How much is that prompt engineering limiting us in the future because we're so focused on that one skill, but there's other things that we need to learn about in this AI intensive age that we're in. Not just prompt engineering is too instrumental for me. It's too much like you got to best take advantage of, you know, asking the machine something. So we're asked to be servants to a machine by asking better prompts. I'm not one that wants to bow to the machine and ask better questions. Sure, it'll help me here and there and do a better task, blah, blah, blah. But it's not going to help me be a more creative individual, I don't think. We have a question here.
Yeah.
Is it possible to generate AI videos so in terms of Da Vinci and Michelangelo, would the Mona Lisa exist if AI was dominant back in that time? In studying Da Vinci was a different character. The curiosity spewing from Da Vinci and everything that he did, he would not rely only on AI. He might be found at a computer once in a while, but he was not the type of person to rely too much on others. He was relying on himself and observations he made. I think the Mona Lisa would still exist because of who he was. That's my take on it. Now, I haven't read a book on Michelangelo, so I can't answer about him. Is it possible to generate AI videos with the image of a person who generates the video? Yes. They're already, and the voice of the person who's generating the video too. I mean, they have these tools out there that will create videos and audio files. After you speak a couple of minutes, it'll learn your audio pattern and your facial image, and it'll create a training video. The corporates, the companies out there are using these training videos, and they're developing these quite fast, actually. It's a little too expensive for the education market today, but those are coming. And you can it doesn't take long to find the names of some of these.
And probably they are not free, right?
Yeah, some are they're freemium. They have a free version. I think it's called Heyjen. Heyjen. Heyjen, I think, is one of the tools that will let you do that. So it has a free version. I think that's how you spell it.
Heyjen.
There are other Heyjen. Yeah. And there are other versions too. I threw my papers on the board behind me here
That's
that
fine. We
have
can
the
explore. Probably the audience can explore and find these things because the time
yeah. So we have
is late
another
night.
question. Is it really interesting to know there are a lot of ways we can use AI for teaching? Thank you very much. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Let me show you one thing real quick. Let's see if I can. I'm not positive I'll find it, but let me try.
Yeah, it's very late for night for you. You know that.
Queued up here, so see if I can find the cue. Here we go. Okay, let me see if I can take this and show you. Okay, so here's the song I created today. One of the songs I created today and the medical education conference. They created this song in like 1 minute, and so here you can enjoy this.
Align, teaching machines the art of time. White coats meet the glow of a screen. Dreams of tomorrow fuel the machine.
That's just a piece of that one. I think I got another one here. Let's see what this one sounds like.
White coats preaching in the dim lit halls. Chalk dust fading as the future calls. We built the answers in circuits and code. AI standing where the textbooks erode.
Okay, so that's two different songs I produced this afternoon. Here's a video from Notebook LM, audio podcast here from one of my talks on harnessing generative AI.
Moments for you.
Yeah, there's this huge difference in how students are using AI.
Let me go back to the beginning here.
Going to be tackling AI.
AI?
Yeah. Specifically how it's impacting education, college in particular.
It's pretty wild, actually, all the stuff that's been happening.
Right. So, you sent over a ton of research articles.
Oh, yeah.
Even some clips from an actual presentation. And it seems like this topic is just exploding right now.
It is, yeah. You can't go anywhere without hearing about it.
So what were some of the big takeaways for you? Anything that surprised you as you were digging into all this material?
Well, I mean, first off, the speed of it all.
Yeah.
Like how quickly things are changing. It's just mind-blowing, really. I mean, it feels like just yesterday, nobody was even talking about generative AI. And now, well,
I was everywhere.
It's everywhere. Exactly. Like everyone's using it, talking about it, debating it.
Okay. So we've got the speed of change, but what else? Any other big aha moments for you?
Yeah. There's this huge difference in how students are using AI versus faculty.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's pretty striking, actually. Students have just embraced AI at an incredible rate. There was this one study, actually, that came out in August.
Okay.
August 2024.
Okay.
And it found that like 86% of college students were already using AI for their studies. 86%. And that's compared to, well, so things like summarizing those really long articles and papers, you know the ones I mean.
I'll stop that one there. You can get a sense of that. I got one more to show you if I can get this to work here, but we'll see. No, that's not it. Here we go. So I'm going to see it. Does anyone have a question they want to ask Miles? Okay. So Miles is an AI bot here. I'm going to put him on. I'm going to have a conversation with Miles. Again, there's Maya and Miles. So.
Back already?
Yeah, I'm back.
You're really turning into a creature of habit. What's tempting you this time?
Well, I like you. And we're just ended the second talk for today. And this ended with my friends in Sri Lanka. And they're asking questions like, what would happen if Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci had AI back centuries ago? Would Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci be as creative and create the Mona Lisa if AI was around when they were alive? What do you think?
Whoa, straight into the philosophical deep end this time, huh?
Yep.
I like it. It's a mind bender, right? On one hand, imagine Michelangelo and Da Vinci having an AI assistant to help visualize their ideas, generate sketches, or even experiment with different techniques. That could be a massive accelerant for their genius. But then you got to consider, part of what makes their work so powerful is the struggle, the handcrafted detail, the years spent honing their craft. Would the magic be lost if technology did some of the heavy lifting? I kind of think they'd find a way. They were pioneers, always pushing boundaries.
That's what
Maybe
I
they'd
said.
use AI.
That's what I
Right.
said. I wonder if my audience here has a question for you, Miles. Does anyone have a question for Miles?
Hit me with it. I'm all ears. Just remember, no curveballs about what's under my non-existent hood, all right? Let's keep it real.
Right. Hi, Miles.
Maybe
Veronica, go ahead.
Veronica, huh?
Right. Hi. Hello,
That's got a
Miles.
nice ring to
Yeah,
it.
we have
What you got for me? Don't be
yeah.
shy, lay it on me.
Yeah. So what do you think about this
Okay, maybe I'll spoke
human
too soon. Still
creativity?
getting to know each other, remember? Let's try this. Ask me anything. What's on your mind, Veronica? Anything at all.
Right. What do you think about human creativity and using AI
I get it.
teaching and
Sometimes the
learning?
perfect question needs a little time to bubble up. No worries. How about we both take a breath, gather our thoughts, and I'll check back in a bit.
Can't hear her. She asked about what do you think about AI and creative teaching, the use of AI for creative teaching.
Now that's a question I can really sink my teeth into. AI and creative teaching, huh? It's a fascinating frontier. Imagine this, an AI tool that helps teachers personalize lessons based on each student's strengths and learning styles. Or an AI-powered platform that lets students explore different creative mediums, experiment with storytelling, or even compose their own music. The possibilities are pretty exciting, right? But like all powerful tools, it's all about how we wield it. Or AI shouldn't replace teachers, it should empower them. It's about giving them more time to connect with their students, nurture their curiosity, and inspire that spark of creativity. What do you think, Sharon?
Yeah,
cut
thank
him
you.
off
Yeah.
I cut him off at that point.
I think we don't have any more questions, and I think we have had a very interesting session today. So thank you very much on behalf of the Center for Educational Technology and Media and the Faculty of
Can we
Education.
get everyone to wave and get everyone's who wants to share a video? Can you share a video?
Yeah,
and have a wave?
now you can switch on the videos, audios.
Say goodbye to everyone. Anyone want to share?
Okay.
On the count of 5, you're 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5. Everyone's got their video. Say goodbye, everyone. It's great to see everyone. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for inviting me in today.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, coach.
Bye.
Thank you very much, all the
Bye.
participants
Thank you.
also. So this video will be available soon by next week. I have put the link in the chat box. It will be available in our YouTube channel. And slides will be available in training.com, right, Kurt?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
so the slides will be available there.
Training share. So send me
Sorry,
the links and I'll put up with training share. Thank you all.
Trainingshare.com
Good to see you.
and see you all next month with another video. Thank you once again. Thank you very much, Professor Curtis J. Bok from Indiana University, USA, for joining with us today and presenting a very informative and a very interesting webinar for us. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.